Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Super Bowl Sunday, February 4th, and you are listening to episode 143 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So yes, obviously you heard that right. Today is Super Bowl Sunday, February 4th, and I was about to say as usual, but that's because that's what it feels like. As usual, my New England Patriots are in the Super Bowl, so obviously that is who I will be rooting for this weekend, or later today, actually. I'm recording this show early in the morning on Sunday because I got to get this thing out of the way, wrapped up, encoded, in the bag, uploaded, whatever you want to say, so that I can go and sit and enjoy the Super Bowl. And if you're not a football fan, you probably just don't get it, and that's fine. I understand that everybody out there is not a sports fan, not even just football. But when your team is in the finals or in a final game, there's just that heightened level of, oh shit, what's going to happen? And every year that the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, I get that feeling in the pit of my stomach of doom and gloom, and they're absolutely going to screw the game over. They're going to lose horribly, and everybody's going to be pissed for the rest of the week and the month, and all the way up until the next session of whatever sport it is starts up again. So there's that one side of me that is like, oh God. And then there's that other side of me that, after watching the game last year and seeing the Patriots come back from being down 28-3 in the third quarter to win a game in overtime and be the most exciting game I've ever seen in my entire life, that's the reason I continue to watch sports events like this. Bringing it full circle with Planetside 2, I just hope one day that this whole esports craze will give people the same sort of excitement and pit of your stomach feeling over some teams in an esports league competing. I don't think that we're anywhere near that currently, but it will be interesting to see if we ever get to something like that in the future of esports. And while I'm not a huge esports fan, I just can't sit and watch a game that I would much rather be playing, unlike an existing sports game, just because they've been in existence so long that watching a game live or watching a game on TV is inherently such a better experience for a real sports game than going out into the field and playing pickup with your friends or doing something like that. And granted, that's fun too, but the way esports are to me, I would much rather be the person playing the game rather than watching other people playing a video game. It just doesn't do it for me. And maybe I'm old and that's the way it is, but I don't find myself in that state now. Now, granted, if we get to a point in the future where esports are the same equivalent of a viewing or watching experience as the four major sports in the U.S. I didn't count soccer for you international folks, and I'm sorry, because I am a huge soccer fan. You guys know that. Then maybe I would watch more types of esports and things like that. But again, I will be rooting for the Patriots today. I will most likely not be playing Planetside 2. I'm still deciding whether I should just camp out in my basement and scream at my TV alone, or head out to my sister-in-law's parents' house, who are throwing a little Super Bowl party, and scream at the TV in front of them and make an absolute fool out of myself. Either way, we'll obviously know the outcome when everybody listens to this week's show. Other than that, in-game itself, I've been obviously using my lasher a lot. I think I'm up to 750 kills in the Platinum Lasher, getting much closer to Araxiuming it. And then I don't know what I'll do because I'll have all 3 lashers Araxiumed. I said last week maybe I'll go back to the Jackhammer. I also have the Light Assault class I want to work on. There's lots of things that I could do in-game, actually, once I'm done finishing off the lasher. I imagine that I will devote some time the upcoming week to working on it. In addition, though, I've made a commitment that February is get back to the gym month and get back into training for running and to play soccer itself. So I've got to juggle some time with that as well, in addition to playing within the game itself. And lately I've been experiencing a lot of times where I've logged off earlier than I normally do while playing, just because fights feel unfun. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the show itself. But that transitioned us perfectly. What's in store for this week's show? Well, first, I do have a PTS update to talk about, followed by an outfit bug in game that is absolutely screwing with me. Then Rel did a new Twitch live stream over the weekend that I want to talk about. Then I'm going to do that quick little rant on fun and unfun fights and finish up this week's show with some listener email about construction. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So first up this week, like I said, was the January 29th PTS update, and this brought a bunch of things to the PTS. Again, if you are a newer listener, don't forget PTS is public test server. It is only available on the PC side of the game. If you are a PlayStation 4 Planetside 2 player listening to this, remember that it has to be installed on your PC to play it out. You can't play around with that type of stuff on the PlayStation 4. So what did we get in the January 29th PTS update? Well, first off, those aforementioned unstable warp gates on last week's show that was released via the dev live stream, those are now on PTS. And currently it's just a rough iteration of the system itself. But basically, when a continent first becomes unlocked, it enters an unstable state. An unstable continent cannot be captured and also has limited regions in play that you can actually play in. These disabled regions are considered neutral and they are uncapturable, so that's actually a good thing. I had assumed that you wouldn't even be able to play in those particular areas, but clearly you are able to go and play in some of those areas or all of those areas as well. I was wondering if they would treat it as a sort of out of bounds area in the middle of the map, and I was concerned that aircraft would have a tough time playing around in those areas. But the good news, as we can see, they're just considered neutral and uncappable, so you can still maneuver around in them. They're not going to affect your ability to travel from one place or another on the map itself, or if you're an ESF pilot, dogfight in the sky and move all over the place. So that is certainly a good thing. Now, with this particular iteration that's on PTS, these unstable continents will automatically stabilize to a full continent map after 2 hours. In a later update, they're going to be stabilizing continents based on populations. So really the purpose behind this system is to increase the fight density on off continents, as well as provide a more engaging place to wait in queue when your faction is overpopping the main continent itself. As I said, I think this is a great idea rather than just unlocking an entire continent and making it so it's just very small, groups of people doing one thing or another, ghost capping or whatnot. Since it's only going to initially be the outer ring of a particular continent, it's going to force you into some specific lanes to actually fight into. And it's also going to provide some interesting fight mechanics on which faction you're going to be focusing on, because obviously, let's say, for example, you are in the upper right-hand corner of some particular continent. You're only going to be able to go, across the northern side or down the eastern side and pick the faction that you want to fight against. So you really shouldn't see any sort of three-way fights when these are first open up because there's really no way for the other faction to kind of get involved in sort of the middle of the map where usually you see those 3 faction fights that are occurring. So you can kind of dedicate your time to fighting one faction or the other as you kind of move through the unstable version of the continent itself. Again, I like the idea. It's definitely different. It's definitely something new, and it's definitely going to funnel players into specific lanes, and it's good for new players specifically. If you're a brand new player dropping into something like this because you can't get onto the main continent, at least you know exactly where you need to focus your time. You'll see obviously the fight indicators on the map itself and things like that. So I think the unstable warp gate system is a good addition to the game itself, and I can't wait to see it actually come to live and play with it some more on live itself. But of course, unstable warp gates were not the only thing added to the January 29th PTS update. We also got some various infantry adjustments, first with the Jackal itself. This is the Doku's Terran Republic SMG. The biggest things with this is the BX adapter had some changes made to it. The goal of the devs here is to keep it as a niche attachment while also fixing some of the quality of life issues that it created. So what they did was they changed the icon, they gave it an updated tooltip. It is no longer going to reduce your ammo capacity, and the reload speed was dropped so that it reloads a bit faster than it did before. And again, kind of make it a better weapon than it was previously, because I think everybody was in agreement that the Jackal was probably the worst of the 3 performing SMGs that have been released most recently. So curious what people's thoughts are on live once these actually come to live, or if anybody's played with them on PTS. Next, the MGH1 Watchman. This is Doku's Terran Republic LMG. They removed the audio from it because of an upcoming audio pass that's being done to all 3 of the new LMGs. They also updated the weapon description. They removed the placeholder assault rifle hipfire values that it had. So now it has some actual standing, crouching, and crouch walking and walking hipfire values that are specific to the Watchman itself. And they also made an update to the impact ammo icon. So again, the biggest change here for the Watchman itself is that it has its own specific hipfire. The differences for hipfire values, and it's no longer using the default assault rifle one. So if you were dissatisfied with the previous hipfire values, go check it out on PTS and see if it's more to your liking. Next, the MGR L1 Ballast. This is Doku's new conglomerate LMG. First off, Ballast is not going to be the name of this particular weapon anymore. I already have talked about that. Someone said that it had changed its name already, and now it was being called The Promise, and I absolutely hate that name. In fact, I had a little poll out on Twitter last week with some ideas that I came across. I actually went to the naval Wikipedia entry and basically any naval terms that I could find, since that's the way they wanted to go. And I came up with the names like the Yardarm or the Stanchion or the Carronade or the Broadside. And a lot of people the majority of people who voted liked the Broadside. So maybe instead of the Promise, they can go with something like the Broadside instead. But in addition to that, that renaming, which, I really don't like it. But they did that audio removal as well because they're doing another audio pass. They fixed some broken or incorrect optics, and I had issues with optics when I first started playing with them, so I'm glad to see that those have been fixed. They added some updated animations. They adjusted the view model, and specifically the view model itself is that they moved that handle out of the way a bit, so it's not as in your face or in your way when you ADS as it was when I first tried it. So I'm certainly happy with that. They also changed some of the ADS cone of fire as well. They reduced those a bit. And they also added an ammunition storage attachment to the ammo slot. and updated the SPRW icon. In addition, like I said, calling it The Promise. But again, they say that that is just a working title. Could go live as something else. I hope they change it to something else. Like I said, I like the broadside. Some of my listeners like the broadside. Take that as you will. Finally, under LMGs, the VEH Maw, this is obviously Doku's Vanu Sovereignty one, also had its audio removed, but they also adjusted the reload particle effects. They adjusted the reload animations, so it's not as bad as it was before, just to make it a little bit updated as well. So there's your 3 LMGs in addition to the Jackal. Moving along to vehicle adjustments, there was just one, and that's to the Lightning. They've removed the braking penalty on Racer chassis, and previously it was causing issues with some lateral friction on hills and rough terrain, so this should just make the vehicle easier to control all around. I use Racer chassis a lot on my Lightning, so I can't wait to see that come to life and give me some better movement when I'm going over hills and rough terrain on top of everything else. Moving along to the player studio portion itself, Fuzzbucket's Arbiter helmet and armor set for the Terran Republic are now available in the depot on PTS and should come to live very soon. And then other than that, there were just a bunch of bug fixes and miscellaneous fixes. Big ones for me, the inaccurate queue timer from the Continent QUI, that's been fixed as well. They're renaming the logout key to the characters key on the character creation screen. Kind of a nothing too huge or too important. The low battle rank join combat idle prompt should now appear and work properly for low battle ranks and not just for everybody. And a bunch of other different little things. I guess a big one is that wielded knives should no longer break when entering or exiting a vehicle. Basically, if you had your knife out and you jumped into a vehicle, if you exited and still had the knife out, you couldn't damage anything. So certainly they have fixed that as well. And I guess the last really huge thing is the max units being able to flip vehicle capture points. And again, that's something that I mentioned on last week's show. Bastion Fleet's makeover still going as well. And I guess the final controversial change is that only headshots are going to display a headshot hit indicator now. Previously, if you did a lot of damage above a specific threshold, it would also show that hit indicator. So they've changed it so it's only going to show that big circle when you actually get a headshot. Again, that's a controversial one because I think people really enjoyed seeing the huge amount of damage showing that. So I guess I'll just break it to you that there is a change to that as well, and they're going to show a different sort of indicator when you do a bunch of amount of damage. Rel indicated that on his stream this past weekend. So again, that is the January 29th PTS update in a nutshell. Again, kind of getting ahead of myself, but based on Rel's stream this past week, we should be seeing that all this stuff come to live probably Tuesday of this week, maybe Thursday. A lot of this stuff should come to live very soon itself, specifically the LMGs and some other stuff. Maybe not the unstable warp gate system itself, but definitely the LMGs and some of those other various bug fixes. I don't know if you could hear my phone vibrating like crazy on the desk next to me because my wife and daughter are out prom dress shopping. So some more of the joys of being a parent of a teenager. And yes, I know some of you guys listening are teenagers and stuff like that, and you're probably like, God, because Derringer is an old man. With that, let's move along to some other stuff this week rather than my personal life. So topic number 2 this week is about a bug that's in game that's been annoying the hell out of me, and it's about outfits that are disappearing from Planetside 2. And Cube Raider was the first person to actually bring this to my attention. He did it via Reddit so that everybody could see about it because he was having issues with the outfit HZD, as well as a number of other various outfits on Emerald itself. And this only seems to be affecting some of the smaller outfits or mid-fits or things like that. I know HZD is not a huge outfit, The outfit that I'm in, Bax, Black Arrows, is also not a huge outfit. And my character in particular, Derringer, was no longer in Bax for the entirety of this week. When I checked the other night, I was also no longer in Bax. And I confirm that I have not been kicked from Bax, because if I was kicked, I'd be friggin' furious, because I've been in Bax forever, since the day that I created that character. So I would hate to lose all that time that I was in that particular outfit. But apparently this is an issue that a lot of people across a lot of servers are having. So just take my word for it that if you are in a smaller or mid-fit type outfit, and all of a sudden your outfit list is gone, or when you go to that tab on your screen itself that it says you're not in an outfit, you are not alone in experiencing this stupid frigging bug. And we did get a response from Nick Silva, so they are investigating the issue, and they've had reports of other missing outfits as well. They're assuming at this point that it's just a database issue, and hopefully they will have it fixed soon, but it might require some server downtime. They will announce any updates or details via Twitter. But he did also further say that the outfit service is in a bad state. It's been rebooted, and if you're still having the issues, sometimes it could just take from logging out and logging back in. As I said, I've been experiencing this bug pretty much every time I log in on my Derringer character. So I don't know if it's 100% fixed at this particular point, but again, know that you probably weren't kicked from your outfit. We're just dealing with a bug at this particular time that the folks over at Daybreak Games will fix. Have no fear. So third up this week, Rel did a live stream on Twitch on Saturday. I only was able to catch about half of it. No one's done a real quick rundown of it as well on Reddit or anything like that, so I'm disappointed in that. But there were some things that I wanted to talk about because of it. First of all, like I said earlier in this week's show, we do have an ETA on when the new LMGs are going to make it to the game, and it's slated to come out this week. So if you were listening to this show on Monday, probably by Tuesday, maybe, or worst case later on in the week, the new LMGs should be in the game itself. I am really looking forward to that because I am looking forward to playing with the Maw. It functions much like an anchor on the Vanu Sovereignty. I love the anchor on New Conglomerate, so I can't wait for that on the Vanu side. That's one of the big things that we got from the stream itself. Another big thing that we got from him is, again, confirming that the legit hit shot indicator and large damage indicator coming in the next patch, that they're going to have their own separate indicators. Again, he confirmed that that's something that is happening, and it's not just going to be only on headshots. There will be that second one as well. The big thing that I took from this and wanted to actually spend most of this topic talking about is something concerning orbital strikes. And Rel said that in February, they expect to do a full construction rebalance. That was something that they mentioned on the Dev live stream a week or so ago, that they're looking to drop the values, the costs, everything associated with construction. But in addition to that, he said that the goal or the changes they're talking about bringing to live right now are that first, orbital strikes are going to be on a much quicker recharge rate, about a 5-minute timer to reach max rank, unlike whatever it is, 12, 20 minutes right now. It's a long time to make max rank right now, but it's going to go down to only about 5 minutes. But the bigger thing is, and this is something that I said I wanted on last week's show, they are going to allow you to fire orbital strikes into no construction zones. So that means you're going to be able to hit any bases you want, as long as you're within range and can do so. It is also going to affect things, players, etc., that are indoors, it's not going to kill you outright. Now, if you're outside, yes, and you get caught in the orbital strike itself coming down, you are going to take damage from that orbital strike, and you are going to die. If you are inside, you will still take damage from the orbital strike itself, but you are going to be reduced down to 1 health instead of dying. And one of the main reasons for this change is to kind of combat Zergs that we see in the game itself. If a Zerg is always under threat of being orbital striked and all of them dying, it's going to be a lot harder for those Zergs to continue to exist within the game itself. Now, Rel did say there is the caveat that, this could be too overpowered. Expect them to tune it further. But the fact that they are considering bringing orbital strikes completely and fully and wholly into the game itself and allowing it to affect any place within the game itself is something that I've been asking for since orbital strikes were first announced for the game itself. Anybody who played the original Planetside knows that there were two ranks of orbital strike. You had to actually reach Command Rank 4 and Command Rank 5 to unlock them. Command Rank 4 would give you a mini orbital strike, and Command Rank 5 would give you a larger orbital strike. That obviously we don't have command ranks within Planetside 2, therefore orbital strikes are tied to construction itself. But again, with the orbital strikes in Planetside 1, you could deploy them anywhere, and they were very effective at clearing the outside of a base, clearing the courtyard of a base, things like that. And that's how I have always wanted them to work in Planetside 2. Yeah, it sucks balls when you get hit by an orbital strike, but you need that in the back of your mind, knowing that you could be orbital striked by somebody who's building that in a construction base nearby, and it gives you a reason to destroy any nearby bases that are able to construct an orbital strike if they're enemy bases. So I was very excited when I saw him talking about this on his stream, and that this is something that this month, because February, we're in February now, this is the first podcast of February, that we're going to get a construction rebalance this month, and orbital strike changes should appear on PTS. Could it be the end of the month? Sure. Who knows? But the fact that it's coming to the game itself makes me think that or feel like the developers are listening not only to me, but to everybody else who has been asking for this in the game. So, again, this is the one thing I want to talk about mainly about on his stream. He went through a ton of other questions. I mean, it's a 3.5 hour stream that he went through. And I mean, he talked about things like the Bulldog nerf. He talked about why he likes specific bases and not, how he doesn't like the NS-45 pistol, how he'd love to rework Esamir altogether. He answered questions about the flamethrower, underbarrel grenade launchers, daily rewards. There was a lot of stuff in this stream itself. If you have any downtime, or the next time you're actually in game playing the game, I would recommend popping up this live stream and just listening to him respond to people's questions. And he reads all the questions before he responds to them too. So it's not like you even have to have the stream open and watching chat as they come through. You can certainly listen to it while you're playing and get a lot of good information from it, because if there's anything that Rel is good at, he's good at doing a live stream where he plays the game and continuously answers as many questions as they come in as he can. I'll include a link to the stream to this week's show notes. Please definitely take the time to go out and listen to it. Like I said, next time you're just sitting in game and playing, and if you're going lone wolf or whatever, pop the stream up and have it playing in the background just so you can hear the questions that are being posed to him and his responses to them. Because even if you feel it might be a stupid question, he still takes the time to answer them, and with a lot of good insight as to where or what direction that they're going in the game itself. You may not like all his responses to the questions themselves, but at least he does take the time to do them. And I, for one, certainly appreciate the time that he puts into those live streams, because obviously they're during his personal time. He doesn't do these live streams while he's at work. So thank you to Rel for doing those. And again, I'll include a link. It's worth your time just to have it playing in the background and listen to it. So fourth topic this week, I wanted to talk about the unfun fights within the game itself. And I think this is going to be more a mini rant than anything else. Lately, I've been experiencing a lot of what we call unfun fights. There seems to be a lot of stagnation at certain times within the game itself when, all of a sudden we'll be playing, we'll be having a good time, and then all the fights on a continent seem to just absolutely evaporate into nothing. And it just feels like it's one fight in one location, and it's just one massive Zerg on one side fighting one massive Zerg on the other side, and there's very little action anywhere else on the base, anywhere else on the maps themselves. I find this to be very unfun, and as I said at the opening of the show itself, lately I found myself just logging out of the game and going and doing something else. Whether it's watching TV, watching a movie, playing a board game, or anything like that. And that's not how I want to feel when I play Planetside 2. In a perfect world, I'd like to come home from work, eat dinner, do the dishes, deal with all the other stuff I normally deal with around the house. Now I'm going to be hitting the gym 3 times a week to build up my stamina for running again for when the weather gets nice outdoors. But I'd like to do that, and then come home, eat dinner, do dishes, chat with the family, do some other stuff. And then when 8 p.m. rolls around, that's the time I usually walk downstairs, power up the computer, log on to Planetside 2, and I play for 2 hours. I usually play till 10 o'clock. And that's usually my quote-unquote bedtime because I got to get up early and go to work the next day. Now, anytime I come into the game and I don't put that full 2 hours in and feel like I'm getting a good experience or having a good time or getting a lot of kills or doing what I want to do in-game, I find that to be unfun. And lately, that seems to be happening a lot more often, and I'm a little disappointed by that. Now, there are changes coming to the game itself, this whole unstable warp gates thing. I hope it comes to live sooner rather than later because maybe that could help with some of the unfunness that I'm feeling. This new orbital strike stuff that we're talking about that could potentially crush Zergs in one spot or another, that could help build some more fun rather than unfun fights. But I need to say it out loud so people can hear it for anybody that's listening. I've been experiencing a lot of unfun fights lately in Planetside 2. Does that mean I'm dropping Planetside 2 like a hot potato? No. I still log in pretty much every night. And like I said, around 8 p.m., you can find Derringer VS, or Derringer TR playing on Emerald. Might I stay until that full 2-hour session every night? That I don't know. I'm just going to have to hope at this point that some of these changes that we're seeing are going to fix this unfunness that I'm currently feeling within the game itself. So take that as you were if you are a developer listening to this podcast this week. I don't want unfun fights, and hopefully some of these changes come to the game sooner rather than later. So I break that current cycle that I'm in. And with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
And I did get one email this week, and it was from Louie, and he wrote, "Hey, Mark, just thought I would weigh in on the base building conversation. I've been building a lot of bases and orbital striking a lot, so here are my top 10 beefs and suggestions. Number 1, it takes way too long to mine and deposit cordium. It's a mind-numbing task that needs to be sped up or made more interesting." Louis, I agree with you on this one. I do not mine cordium as a result because it is a mind-numbing task that I do not want to undertake. I would certainly love to see it sped up a bit. Number 2, bases need to be babysat way too much. The silo needs constant filling, the repair mods repairing, and the alarms always chirping for something. My kills per hour go way down when I have a base. Yes, you should have to maintain a base, but the current setup is too needy and needs to be toned down by about half. I will agree with you on that one. And Louis, I know maybe I glossed over it briefly, but I'm almost 100% sure that this is one of the things that the construction revamp that they're going to be doing this month is going to take into account, so that everything's going to cost less. The requirements to continue it are going to cost less, all kinds of things like that. Number 3, base items reward way too much XP for destruction. There are always guys looking to just farm the modules with no intentions of actually taking out your base. I agree with you on that one as well. But I don't see too many people just farming the different modules. Granted, I don't do a lot of base constructed base fighting, so I might need to take your word for this one and not mine. Number 4, I do not like the Sky Shield nerf on PTS, where they only EMP the infantry that go through it. It's hard enough keeping infantry out as it is. They must think it's hard for a squad to take out a base. Meanwhile, I'm struggling stopping one guy from taking out a hive in less than a couple minutes. See, now, I kind of... Again, I don't build the bases. I only attack them, and only occasionally. So I'm all for being EMP'd coming through the Sky Shield. But again, I'd accept more feedback from other people who do it as well, because I'm curious as to exactly what that is. Number 5, we need more building options, like a wall option for slope terrain and maybe some sort of radar module. I agree with... I hear that those are some things that might be coming as well in the update. Number 6, there are some exploits when it comes to base building and base attacking. I'm not going to list them to encourage players to use them, but they are there and something should be done about them. If there's exploits in the game, all I can say for you, Louis, on that is I hope that you're reporting them, because that's really the only way some of those are going to get fixed. Either that or make a big video about them like some other guys did about hackers and stuff like that. If you put a video out there and tell everybody how to do the exploits, throw it up on Reddit, I guarantee you'll get a response to it. Number 7, there are some bugs as well. Currently, the worst is anytime you put down a repair mod. Your character now says the engineer emotes every so often. Not fun when you're trying to be sneaky. In response to that, Louis, I hope you log that on the bug log. Number 8, orbital strikes are very limited on where they can be set off. I know Rel had said they were thinking about removing all limitations, but that would be too OP. I was thinking they could use the same radius around bases as the Sunday no deploy zone. I also think the inner circle limitation is too big. You can't even defend your own base with your orbital. As I said earlier, and as Rel indicated, I think what you think is going to be too OP is coming to the game, and you're just going to have to deal with that. Number 9, there is too much interference between items. First, the AI turret mods and Sky Shield needs to be placed too far apart. Also, you can't place walls tight up against some buildings, leaving a big gap. I've seen that one. I've seen the gaps, and I do know that is also something that they're planning on taking care of in the construction pass this month. And finally, number 10, the placement restrictions are too strict. It gets really tough placing items at times. A small slope or a rock can leave your base wholly and vulnerable. Again, just like number 8, I know that's something that they're looking to address in the next update. And then at the end, Louis just says, love Louis. So, Louis, thank you for your email about construction itself. Anybody else who has some similar experience in construction, feel free to write in. Or go right to the Connery server and look up Louis yourself and discuss it with him. I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you. But that's going to be it for this week's show. As always, how can you get in touch with me or the show itself? First off, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. You can send me an email like Louis did, instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can call me, leave me a voicemail. That's 347-4VM-4PS2 or 347-486-4772. Follow the show on Twitter @InstActPodcast or follow me on Twitter. I am @TheDerringer. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.